Hello and welcome back to another episode of Diablo to D&D. My name is David, and today we're going to be going over the creation of the Entropist Warlock. So I'm going to be taking a break from doing rune words because you do enough of them and they start to get boring. And we'll take a look at the creation of the Entropist. So the Entropist Warlock is built around the Tides of Chaos skill tree. Or Arts of Chaos, excuse me. Tides of Chaos is the D&D sorcerer's, wild sorcerer's thing. And it is specifically built around the 4 abilities, which maps very nicely to 4 subclass abilities, on the right side of the tree. Miasma Bolt, Miasma Chain, Enhanced Entropy, and Abyss. These 4 abilities are magic damage. They deal a fairly significant amount of damage, and it's one of the best builds in the game. So it's pretty darn good. They all synergize with each other, which makes it even better. They actually do some pretty good single target and area damage as well. So you get that single target with Miasma Bolt and a bit of single target, a bit of area damage with Miasma Chain, and then Abyss is all area damage, and Enhanced Entropy makes them better. Alright, so Miasma Bolt fires a bolt of darkness that releases a cloud of entropy. This is basically just it's a small missile. When it hits, it creates a small pool of miasma that deals damage over time, lasts for a certain amount of time. It's a pretty simple ability. It's, you get it at level 1, and it can carry you through probably the late early game up until you get Miasma Chain. In D&D, this one was a bit of a back and forth for me, so I didn't know if I wanted to make it a cantrip or like a first level spell or an ability, but I made it an ability because it felt right, because it has a little bit more modularity, a bit more tweaking that I can give it. So, Miasma Bolt. When you take this subclass at first level, you can shape chaos into bolts of exploding energy. As an action, you can make a ranged spell attack using Charisma. On a hit, the target takes 1d8 force damage, and you create a 5-foot radius pool of miasma centered on the target, which lasts until the start of your next turn. Whenever a creature of your choice enters the area for the first time on a turn or starts its turn there, it makes a Constitution saving throw against your Warlock spell save DC. On a fail, it takes 1d8 necrotic damage. So this has a couple interesting points of tweaking points, knobs, that can be moved back and forth and tweaked and whatnot. First, it does have an on-hit effect, and then it has a damage over time effect. This is exactly what it does in Diablo 2. It does some damage on hit, and then it creates a pool of damaging, damage. I did make the distinction of separating the force damage and necrotic damage. I'd considered going pure force, but magic damage in Diablo is just one of 6 types, and magic damage could be anything. It's radiant, it's necrotic, it's force, it's whatever. And I kind of wanted to make it feel like there's a couple different things going on. So the force damage is like you're pulling the person's soul, damaging their soul, and then the necrotic damage is like they're damaging their body. It's leaving behind this effect that's corrupting and not acidic. What's the corrosive to their body? You're attacking both their spirit and their body. Constitution saving throw kind of goes along with that necrotic damage. If this was a cantrip, I think it might be a bit too powerful because it would scale. No, okay, actually, now that I think about that, that said, I did make things like teeth and some other ones that don't quite fit this, just do additional damage. Now, I don't know if that's a good idea to go back and do it. Everything's under consideration right now, so it's something I can do. But this was also kind of modeled after Ice Knife, which is one of my favorite spells. I love Ice Knife because it deals piercing damage on a hit, and then it explodes and deals cold damage. And this is basically what Miasma Bolt does, which is one of the reasons why I had considered doing a first level spell, just kind of making Ice Bolt into a force necrotic damage thing. But I figured it was a little too similar, and I don't want you guys to be using your spell slots on basic abilities. That's for later. Alright, let's move on to Miasma Chain. This is one of your big damage dealers. It creates a shadow chain that emits a suffocating miasma between you and the target. This can be used on enemies to target creatures or on just a spot on the ground. And everything in between you and that spot or that creature takes damage. You can also summon a few chains. I'm not entirely sure what the max is, but you can summon quite a few of them, and it increases as you level up. In D&D, Miasma Chain is a 6th level ability that allows you to summon chains made of pure chaos. Woo! As an action, choose a point within 60 feet of you. You create an immaterial chain 1 inch wide connecting you to that point. The chain passes through creatures and objects. Very important. Whenever a creature of your choice passes through the chain for the first time on a turn or starts its turn in the area, it makes a Constitution saving throw against your Warlock spell save DC. On a fail, it takes 2d6 force damage or half as much on a success. The chain disappears after 1 minute or if you are more than 60 feet from the point you chose. Early on in concepting this, I had looked at Witch Bolt, because that's pretty much what the ability does. You can target a creature, and then it deals damage to that creature constantly. And I thought about like giving you Witch Bolt and making it a modification, but I ended up with what I have here because, again, I didn't want you guys spending spell slots on this ability. Now, this is only a single chain. I had considered doing something like you can summon a number of chains equal to your proficiency bonus, but then that ends up getting really, really big, where you just throw chains all across the battlefield, and just anytime anybody moves anywhere, they're taking damage. The wording could be modified, but if you throw like 5 or 6 chains into like the same area, and then you just walk past someone, suddenly they're taking 10d6 force damage across 5 saving throws. Like, that's incredibly good. Granted, that's also incredibly high level, so. But I left it here. I think it's good enough, and of course, anything can be tweaked. I did make it so that you cannot target creatures with this. It was under consideration, but I decided I wanted to cut the words down because it was pretty wordy already. I could make a modification to it with maybe some slight tweaks of just saying you choose a point or a creature, or have like a separate paragraph that says alternatively you could choose a creature and it has some effects based on that. Not terrible. It's not a bad idea, but I'm going to go with what I have here for now. Now, I did make this force damage. I could, I guess, do like 1d6 force damage and 1d6 necrotic, but I think I wanted to leave miasma itself as that necrotic damage. And so these chains, while yes, they also do have miasma, mentions it in the spell or in the mechanics in Diablo 2. I think just leaving it as force damage is fine. Now, something to note about both of these abilities, Miasma Bolt and Chain, they're both Constitution saving throws, and monsters tend to have a decent Constitution. That's one of the reasons why I bumped it up, I guess, or bumped the damage up, I guess. It's not bad. I thought about making Miasma Chain a dexterity saving throw, but since it moves in between, or moves through creatures, it's not really something you can kind of avoid. So I left it as a Constitution saving throw. All right, thirdly, we have Enhanced Entropy. This one is a passive ability that modifies the miasma radius, the duration, and the radius of Abyss. Now, in Diablo, this is almost a must-have. Okay, it increases the chance that creatures are going to end up walking into your area of effects. However, in D&D, you'll notice that Miasma Bolt has 1 radius. Miasma Chain has, well, okay, and it does have like within 60 feet of you, but the effect itself has 0 radius. So I made a couple modifications to put it into D&D. At 10th level, your miasma pools last for 1 minute, and the radius increases to 10 feet, both of which are very good. And when you create a miasma chain, you can create an additional chain as part of the same action. There's that scaling ability for miasma chain. If you create a pool of miasma while one is already active, the oldest one ends. I just realized that I forgot to put the rider on Miasma Chain that you can only have 1 summoned at a time. Yeah, I'm going to put that one in there, so give me just a second. Okay, it's pretty rough, but I threw in you may have 1 chain summoned at a time. If you use this ability again, the oldest one ends. Okay, back to Enhanced Entropy. So this does exactly what the ability does in Diablo 2. It bumps your duration of your miasma pools, and it bumps the radius as well. I threw in the additional chain because this is kind of the power-up. It shows your mastery over chaos. So creating an additional chain as a part of the same action means that you can throw it out 1 over here and 1 over there. Now, as a point of notice, I just remembered, you can throw these chains, this point that you chose, in the air. It doesn't say choose a point on the ground. It says a point. And that means, because, it's magic, right? It's magic. You're just kind of opening up a minor rift in reality. You haven't gotten to major rifts until Abyss, but you're opening up a minor rift in reality, and that can be anywhere you'd like. So you've got a flying enemy, cool. Throw it up there and hope they fly into it. I don't know, maybe you could catch moths with that. Are the chains glowing? Anyway. Lastly is Abyss. Abyss is your big damage dealer. It's a bit of crowd control. It pulls people in and does damage. This is what you're going to be focusing on for your Diablo 2 build. Abyss says you create a tear in the fabric of reality which pulls enemies close before violently collapsing. So I think this could potentially kill, or not kill, but like destroy bodies. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't want to put a rider on that, but I'm pretty sure that it actually could like destroy corpses. So people like the fallen shamans or the hallowed ones, the Haradrim Ancient, the big zombies with the scythe arm in Act 2. They can't bring back undead because there's no corpse. I think that's the case, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, in D&D, this is basically a miniature. This is basically an upcast fireball. At 14th level, you've harnessed the chaos enough to open sizable rifts in the fabric of reality. As an action, choose a point within 120 feet of you. Each creature of your choice within 15 feet of that point makes a strength saving throw against your warlock spell save DC. On a fail, the creature takes 5d6 force damage and 5d6 necrotic damage and is pulled up to 10 feet towards the point, or takes half as much damage of each type on a success and is not pulled. You can use this ability once per long rest unless you expend a spell slot of 5th level or higher to use this feature again. So, in Diablo, this just creates an area on the ground. It lasts for a certain amount of time, pulls things in, and then collapses. I could make this like an area of effect, like Evard's Black Tentacles, or the one that's the Abyss. I can't remember what it's called. Something about darkness and tentacles. I played a warlock. Okay, like tentacles were a big part of that. But I decided not to do that. I think making just an open and close rift is more flavorful, and because it's like you can only keep it open for so long. It's not creating a damaging over time effect, which is what Miasma Bolt and Miasma Chain does. So Abyss having this big, violent, damaging boom effect on the battlefield is pretty good. And because it pulls, you can throw Miasma Chain down on one turn, or a Miasma Bolt, and then you can cast Abyss and pull people into those area of effects, potentially. Now, this is exactly the damage of a Fireball. 5d6 plus 5d6 is 10d6. At 5th level, a Fireball is dealing 10d6 fire damage. But the difference is that the radius is much lower. It's a 15-foot instead of a 20-foot radius. And that's it for today. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this. I love making player abilities. I love making things that people can use. I would love to hear your thoughts on the matter. Do you think that they would work better as spells? Do you think they would work better as abilities? What are some tweaks that could be made, balancing, things like that? Just leave a comment or contact me on any of my socials. You can contact me at XenozFan2, that is XenozFan2 on Blue Sky and Reddit. And you can contact the channel directly at Diablo TODND on Blue Sky and YouTube. Thank you much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good whatever.